Brodes Media.
I am going to be doing a show again, which, by the way, this might be the 5,000th time. I'll be doing a show again on appreciating Nick Sirianni because Tim McManus dropped a beautiful story this morning on ESPN about what makes Nick Sirianni so great. And I was informed. Media only picks apart the negative and only tries to grab the filth to create controversy. No. Tim McManus got ridiculed insanely irrationally before the season began for something he dropped. We just keep it a buck when we got to keep it a buck. And right now, Sirianni has been so tremendous. He is showing off his skill set. He is showing off why he is an elite NFL head coach. And I have a bunch of blurbs that I want to read to you and then react and share my thoughts on. And that's what we're going to do for majority of this puppy. I gave my early thoughts on the matchup. I think the Birds are going to kick ass. I don't think that's changing, okay? So we'll get more into the strategy side of it maybe Thursday, Friday. But for right now, it's a middle of the week. You know what? Yo, Nick, you do something that not many can get done at this level. When you're 9, 10, 11, growing up playing sports, it's about togetherness. It's about doing something for one another, right? Making sacrifices for the better of the group. But when you get to the pros, it's a business. And everybody's normally very selfish because they want to make sure they're good. They want to make sure they're taken care of so they can what? Make sure their family's right. Well, what if you create an atmosphere where when you're in the locker room, when you put the pads on, when you're fighting out there every Sunday, you're competing with your family on your side? See, it doesn't get that deep with other head coaches. Dan Campbell creates something similar, but he's way more jock. Nick goes more overboard, but it's all authentic. And his ability to be a real blood family inside the NovaCare complex, that's a hard goal to accomplish. That's hard to create and then to keep consistent. He's done that. As great as Sean McVay is, when Kyle Shanahan draws up a play and you see pre-snap movement and then there's a wide open wide receiver with chef's kiss sexiness in the creativity of the design of the play. Nick does that with culture. He's that good at it. So where do we begin with this? Let's start with the handwritten letters. That's right. Nick Sirianni. 3 different examples of him writing handwritten letters. It came after Mailata was voted captain by his peers for the first time this season, a major point of pride for the former Aussie rugby player who knew next to nothing about football when he was drafted in the 7th round. It just detailed how I've earned it and how no one can take that away from me. The way I led, the way I practiced, the way I am in the locker room. It was pretty cool, Mailata said. Think about the leader he has become and how much I have praised Mailata. Just himself going, yo, dude, you really stepped up in a time of need without your Hall of Fame center, without Fletch. You have to have people take a big step being vocal. I love Lane to death. I don't know if Lane is as vocal as we need him to be at times. Lane's Lane, and it worked for him. That sounded bad. It's not bad. I'm saying Lane's Lane. Everyone's going to go their traditional route of leading. Lane does it a certain way. We needed a Mailata. And for him to have the comfortability to blossom into this crazy, insane, good level of vocal left tackle, doesn't Nick deserve appreciation and an effect of him being able to reach this? There's an effect that is caused by Nick Sirianni. That sounded bad too. What the fuck is wrong with me? You know what I'm saying? He's a reason why for allowing Mailata to be Mailata and also write him letters when he's excelling at such a high clip and feeding him this positivity, feeding him this confidence goes a long way. But it wasn't just Mailata. Isaiah Rodgers, who had the gambling issue with Indianapolis and wasn't able to play, it hit home so hard for him when he made his first start this season against the Jags when Darius Slay was hurt. He travels with it. Think about that. He has a form of Nick Sirianni's message that is so impactful and so important to who he is as a football player right now that he puts it in his duffel bag and travels to different cities with it. That's different. That's unique. That makes Nick one of one. And it's hard to create this bond. I would do anything for my wife and daughter. I would do anything for my parents. I would do anything for blood. That's why we all do what we do on a day-to-day basis to keep kicking. It's for and with our loved ones. Nick Sirianni leaned on that so heavily to be who he is, what he believes in, and how his football team is going to play. And while everyone will reference one time Kobe and Shaq were able to be put together in the same locker room and work even though they were butting heads, no one ever mentions the 99.5% of times that it fails miserably because you can't stand one another, because something's broken with the relationships, because everyone's being selfish and there's no glue. What we're seeing, the ability to buy into Saquon being such a huge part of this, after you pay AJ and he's so used to getting all these receptions and the offense is taking a hit in the passing game due to the run game being so powerful. Do you know what it's like? And no disrespect to AJ Brown, but do you know what it's like to deal with those level of personalities? I don't think any of us do. And that's not to say anything bad about AJ or any of these wide receivers who do seem to have a ton of personality. But the track record speaks for itself. They are not uncomfortable to let you know how they feel. I believe they're in a pretty good spot with AJ, Devontae, the passing game not being as crisp, and the buy-in to know you have to make sacrifices in the passing game alone because we are going to heavily utilize our back. And because of their bond, nobody cares how. Everyone's aware it can still go up a tick and it can still get locked in more. But I've never seen a unit truly, to their word, not just saying it because it's player speak, but never feel this confident and this comfortable with just knowing they win. They just win. What was Jalen's phrase he had during that Pittsburgh week? Just because we don't doesn't mean we can't. I wouldn't be surprised if their passing game is way better than it was against Green Bay. Come on, Jalen, after getting a full game under his belt, I think you're going to see a better passing game. I know it's in there. I've seen it. And normally, whenever the doubt creeps in, this is why the Jalen Hurts experience is all over the place and it's riding these crazy waves. Because what he does is he balls out. And then all the haters have to take the crap from the lovers and the supporters and the diehards for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. And then, you get a game similar to Green Bay. Even though you win, you just win in ways that you don't like to see. And they win in ways that aren't necessarily the most pleasurable for you. But then the haters get a week or so, even though they still win. Because all they do is win. It's unbelievable. There was also, who else spoke about the letters? Nakobe Dean. I don't know. No NFL coach is doing that. When it comes to being for your players and having the utmost confidence and respect for your players, I think Nick Sirianni is second to none. This isn't one of those situations either where I feel the players love him because they can work with him or they can work him. They can get over on him. Essentially push him around because he allows the players to have a longer leash. See, the reason I don't think they just want him because he's easy or a pushover is he's not. This is the same guy that barks at anybody when he's riled up. That may be the one area of his flaws, but there's no such thing as a coach that does everything perfect to a T. Sean Payton has flaws. Sean McVay has flaws. Vic Fangio has flaws. Everybody has some flaws. It's just, do your great qualities do significantly more than the woes? And the answer for Nick is yes. We'll probably get something similar again to what transpired with Zach Ertz in that Washington Commanders game, because that is who the fiery Nick Sirianni is always going to show signs of at some point. But if he creates this culture and you love one another so much that you're willing to die on that football field with blood, sweat, and tears for them, then I can live with scrutiny for 24 to 48 hours for Nick doing something silly again if it pops up once a season. Nick bringing this much love, but also having the perfect dial. And he knows when it needs to properly be adjusted. When it's time to go accountability, when it's time to get pissed off in their face, you think in a practice, if he's not satisfied and there's no media around and there's no cameras, he doesn't rip into them? You don't think there's film study where he sees something so egregious on a misplay where he might light into them a little bit? That's what he's known to do. Lose his cool. So if things are happening, I don't believe he's afraid to let it rip. And there's so much respect for him that the players understand that. And most importantly, they respond to that.